CalTV prediction number 5. You are now tuned into Calix Boxing. Hit that sub button for nightly boxing videos. Appreciate all the new subscribers out there. I wanted to do a quick prediction on this video, on this fight. There's not much to talk about as far as this fight goes because it's not the greatest fight in the world, not the greatest matchup in the world. However, the first fight was somewhat exciting while it lasted. But this fight was not in high demand. People wanted to see Danny Jacobs step it up. Sergio Mora not anywhere close to the top 10. I don't even think he's top 20, top 25. Well past his prime. His prime wasn't even that glorious. 28, 4-2, 26% KO percentage. Hasn't been active throughout his career. Only 12 fights, I think, since his win against Vernon, the late great Vernon Forrest 12 years ago when he shocked Vernon Forrest. I was shocked by that outcome. Got to be honest. I was shocked by that one, and Vernon Forrest avenged that loss. But Sergio Mora had the night of his life on that night and shocked Vernon Forrest. But since then, he's only fought 12 times and hasn't fought the best competition. Lost to Brian Vera twice. Had a draw against Mosley in one of the worst fights I've ever seen in my life. So he's not the most exciting fighter. However, the anomaly is the first fight was somewhat exciting. They had knockdowns from both fighters, and then Sergio Mora blew out his ankle or whatever he blew out in the fight. What happens is when a guy hurts his leg in the ring, either he slips, which Mora didn't do from what I saw, or he has problems with the movement of the other fighter. He's moving so much in the ring that he has problems with the movement, and he makes awkward movements and hurts his leg. Seen that from fighters, and I think that's what we saw from Sergio Mora. He was having some issues with Danny Jacobs in there as far as movement, and the fight was a little too fast from what we've seen in Sergio Mora. And that's an interesting tidbit to throw out as well is generally these boring fighters throughout their careers, they're very boring in their prime, but once they get past their prime, once they slow down, once their reflexes slow down, they become a little more exciting. Generally speaking, look at Bernard Hopkins. Was in exciting fights late in his career. Look at the Pavlik fight. Look at the Kovalev fight, even though it was a one-sided fight. Exciting moments in the fight, and you can name several other fights in Bernard Hopkins' career when he couldn't just rely on staking it out, slowing the fight down, controlling the distance and pace. He had to actually get in there and mix it up and throw more punches because he couldn't yuck the fight up. His reflexes weren't as good. His movement wasn't as good. He was in the pocket more. Look at the two Pascal fights. People were shocked by his activity in those fights because – and Pascal, not an active fighter. So, but I'm getting off topic there. What my point is, generally speaking, look at Winky Wright, another example there. The boring fighter had that shell defensive style, walking guys forward with the shell defense. However, the Jermaine Taylor fight, the Sam Solomon fight later in his career, exciting fights, fun fights to watch. Even though a boring, awkward fighter, he was in some fun fights late in his career because he slowed down. The Peter Quillen fight, he had to open up more. So the same thing could hold true of Sergio Mora, and we could actually get hopefully an exciting fight. That's what I hope for in this. That Mora has slowed down so much that he can't just yuck up a fight and rely on reflexes. That he has to mix it up a little more. The problem with Mora is he has shown in his career that even in big spots, even in big fights, when he has an opportunity to show to the world that, hey, I'm here and I want to be exciting. I want to engage. I want to be a fan favorite. Even in big spots, he doesn't. He doesn't do that stuff. He's willing to yuck it up for 12 rounds, even when he's not. Even when he doesn't have a chance to win the fight, except to open up and start moving his hands and throwing punches late in the fight, he still won't do it. He still doesn't show willingness to do it, and still yucks it up. So that's the disappointing part of Sergio Mora, because there is talent there. Just doesn't open it up more, and he doesn't have any sort of power. So I don't know if you can necessarily blame him, but what I'm hoping for this fight is Danny Jacobs. Let's talk about Danny Jacobs for a little while. Danny Jacobs is a guy who was exposed in 2010 against Dimitri P-Rock. And it looked like this guy was being overhyped. And the problem with Danny Jacobs is he gets so rambunctious in there, he forgets that he has to play defense. And it's a good thing to have for fighters. I like offensive-minded fighters, but he'll throw caution to the wind, just throw multiple punches at a time, and forgets that he has to bring his hands back. And you saw it against P-Rock where he got overconfident, and P-Rock obviously knocked him out. But the issue with Danny Jacobs is he's been a protected fighter. So we don't know if this guy has figured things out since then, and since is dealing with cancer and what he went through, and since then he's come into his prime and he's this ultra talented fighter who has figured it out in his prime, or is it just him looking that way because he's in there against average opposition? Peter Quillen, the biggest name on his resume, and Peter Quillen, you know, we saw Al Heyman is willing to put guys in there, his top fighters in there with each other, as long as he has a guy who he's willing to cash out. Peter Quillen, he knew what it was with Peter Quillen at that point. He's willing to cash him out in order to advance Danny Jacobs' career. The issue is, since then, Danny Jacobs hasn't done anything to advance it even further. He hasn't shown willingness to fight Triple G and get in the ring with Triple G until the article that I saw today where his team is contemplating fighting Triple G later this year or early next year before Triple G gets in there with Canelo. The WBA is contemplating making Triple G Danny Jacobs mandatory. So it's a possibility, but he hasn't shown willingness to get in there with Triple G and mix it up with top competition. And Peter Quillen is his best win. So we don't really know. And I just got to see more from Danny Jacobs against top opposition, and Sergio Mora isn't going to give me that. I think Danny Jacobs wins this fight going away. I see him stopping Sergio Mora. I don't think Sergio Mora is going to be able to stink up the fight for 12 rounds and stay in this thing. This is for the WBA middleweight title, and it's a sad state in boxing when Sergio Mora is fighting for the WBA middleweight title, and that this rematch is even happening, really. But hopefully it's exciting and it surprises us like the first fight that didn't last long, but while it lasted, there were fireworks. And I'm hoping that Sergio Mora, even though he has a small KO percentage, doesn't have much power, he was still able to floor Danny Jacobs because Danny Jacobs, like I said, gets so offensive-minded that he forgets that he has to play defense, and you can counterpunch him. You can counterpunch him if you and Sergio Mora has counterpunching skills. So we'll see. We'll see if Danny Jacobs learned from that, or if he just comes in there and tries to blast Sergio Mora away. I hope that's what happens. I hope he comes in there, tries to make a statement, tries to blast Sergio Mora away, and Sergio Mora starts with the counterpunching and shows some flaws for Danny Jacobs when it comes to counterpunching, and then we get a two-way fight. I'm hoping that's what happens here. But I tend to think that Danny Jacobs learns from the first fight, learns that he can't just get in there and throw punches against a counterpuncher without having to worry what's coming back, without having to worry about this guy because he doesn't have much punching power. And I'm thinking we'll get a little more of a cautious Danny Jacobs early in the fight, and he'll just outbox Sergio Mora. Mora won't be able to mix it up. However, like I said, I'm hoping that, like many boring fighters in their prime, Sergio Mora becomes a more exciting fighter later in his prime, like the Winky Wrights, like the Bernard Hopkins, who will be willing to mix it up more in order to try to win fights, being that his reflexes aren't as good, his counterpunching and his timing aren't as good, and we get an exciting fight at least. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm hoping we get some action here, but I just seem to think Danny Jacobs by middle round stoppage. I think he's going to stop Sergio Mora. And hopefully Danny Jacobs goes on to bigger and better things, and hopefully that includes Triple G, because Like I said, the article came out today. They're mulling over whether they want to fight Triple G later this year, early next year before he fights Canelo. I'm hoping that happens. But y'all let me know what y'all think, how this fight's going to play out. Y'all hit me up. I got Danny Jacobs by middle round stoppage.